The morning sun cast long shadows across the red dirt of New Haven as Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison adjusted his rifle and checked his watch. Another routine patrol around the mining colony's outer perimeter. The same rocks, the same dust, the same endless horizon that stretched beyond the settlement's protective dome. After 6 months on this frontier world, Jake knew every crater and ridge within 20 miles. His CUM unit crackled to life. Morrison, this is base. Report your position. 2 miles southeast of the main gate, Corporal Lewis. All quiet out here. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead and took a drink from his water bottle. The twin suns of the New Haven system made even morning patrols feel like a trek through an oven. Copy that, Sergeant. Continue your sweep and report back in 30 minutes. Jake clipped the CUM unit back to his belt and started walking toward the next checkpoint. The colony of New Haven stretched out below him, a collection of white domes and metal buildings housing 50,000 miners and their families. It was not much to look at, but it was home to a lot of good people trying to make a living on. The edge of known space, the ground beneath his feet began to vibrate. Jake stopped and looked around, thinking it might be another mining blast from the excavation sites. But the tremor was different this time. It came from above. A shadow passed. Over him, then another. Jake looked up and his jaw dropped. Massive shapes moved across the sky, blocking out the sun. They were huge, easily the size of small spacecraft, but they moved with the fluid grace of living creatures. Wings the size of buildings caught the light as they descended. What in the hell? Jake muttered, raising his rifle and activating his CUM unit. Base, this is Morrison. We have incoming aircraft. Repeat, we have multiple unknown aircraft approaching the colony. The response came back filled with static and panic. Morrison, get back here now. The whole colony is going crazy. Jake started running toward the base, but the creatures were descending faster than he could move. The first one landed about 100 yards away from him with a thunderous crash that shook the ground. Up close, Jake could see what they really were, dragons, actual dragons, like something from the old stories his grandmother used to tell him. But these were not the small, mythical creatures of Earth legends. Each one was massive, with scales that seemed to shimmer between blue and silver in the sunlight. Their eyes were intelligent, ancient, and filled with something Jake had seen before in the faces of refugees during the border wars. Fear. The largest dragon. Clearly, the leader lifted its enormous head and looked directly at Jake when it spoke. Its voice came through a small device attached to its neck, translating its words into English. Human soldier, the dragon said, its voice deep and resonant. We seek sanctuary. We mean no harm to your people. Jake kept his rifle raised but did not fire. His training told him to shoot first and ask questions later, but something in the dragon's manner made him pause. The creature was not attacking. It was asking for help. What do you want? Jake called out, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. We are refugees, the dragon replied. Our world is gone? Our people are scattered across the galaxy. We have nowhere else to go. More dragons were landing around the colony now. Jake could see at least a dozen of them, all massive, all terrifying, but none of them making any aggressive moves. They just sat there, waiting. Refugees from what? Jake asked. The dragon's eyes closed for a moment, and when they opened again, Jake saw ancient pain there. The Devourers have come to our sector of space. They consume worlds, leaving nothing behind. We are among the last of our kind. A civilian transport vehicle came racing across the desert toward them, kicking up clouds of red dust. Jake recognized the driver as Lisa Carter, the colony's administrator. She was a tough woman in her 40s who had helped build New Haven from nothing, and Jake respected her judgment. Lisa stopped the vehicle and got out, looking up at the dragon. With a mixture of fear and fascination. Sergeant Morrison, what is the situation here? These creatures claim to be refugees, ma'am. They're asking for sanctuary. Lisa stepped forward, her hands raised peacefully. I am Lisa Carter, administrator of this colony. Can you tell me more about this threat you're fleeing from? The dragon turned its massive head toward her. The Devourers are ancient machines that harvest biological matter from entire worlds. They have been moving through our galaxy for millennia, but in recent years they have accelerated their consumption. 3 months ago, they reached our homeworld of Draconia Prime. "What happened to your world?" Lisa asked. "Gone," the dragon said simply. "Every living thing consumed. The planet itself stripped bare. We managed to escape with a few ships, but we have been running ever since. Your world appeared on our sensors, and we hoped ... The dragon paused. "We hoped you might show mercy to fellow beings in need." Jake lowered his rifle. The dragon's story had the ring of truth to it, and he had learned to trust his instincts about people. Even if these people happen to be giant alien dragons. "How many of you are there?" Lisa asked. 47 survivors, the dragon replied. "We have young ones with us and elders who are too weak to travel much further." Lisa looked at Jake, then back at the dragon. "What can you offer in return for sanctuary?" "Knowledge," the dragon said. "We have technologies that could benefit your people. Quantum manipulation, faster-than-light communication, weapons that could defend your world against the Devourers." "The Devourers are still following you?" Jake asked. The dragon's expression darkened. "They follow our trail through hyperspace. We estimate they are perhaps a week behind us." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying that by helping you, we're putting our own people at risk?" "Yes," the dragon said without hesitation. "We understand if you cannot help us. We will not blame you for protecting your own." Lisa and Jake exchanged glances. They both knew that the decision they made in the next few minutes could determine the fate of everyone on New Haven. "What's your name?" Jake asked the dragon. "I am Zixthara, matriarch of the Draconian Remnant Fleet." "Well, Zixthara, I'm Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, and this is Administrator Lisa Carter. We need to discuss this with our people." "Of course," Zixthara said. "But please understand, we do not have much time. The Devourers are relentless in their pursuit." Jake's comm unit buzzed with an incoming message from base. "Morrison, what's your status?" "We're picking up massive energy signatures all around the colony." "Stand by, base," Jake replied. He looked up at Zixthara. "Can you keep your people calm while we figure this out?" "They will follow my lead," Zixthara assured him. "Jake made a decision that would change everything." "Lisa, I'm granting them temporary sanctuary. We'll sort out the details later." Lisa nodded, agreed. "But Jake, we're going to need to contact Earth Command about this." "I know," Jake said. "But right now, we have 47 beings who need help, and that's what we're going to give them." Zixthara bowed her massive head. "Your kindness will not be forgotten, humans. We pledge our lives to the defense of your world." As Jake looked around at the dragons settling in around the colony, he wondered if he had just saved New Haven or doomed it. Only time would tell. But he knew he had made the only choice he could live with. The age of human-dragon cooperation was about to begin. 3 hours after the dragons landed, New Haven's main conference room buzzed with activity. Dr. Helen Price, the colony's chief scientist, sat across from Mordith, an elderly dragon whose scales had faded to silver with age. Between them lay a collection of holographic displays showing star charts and strange symbols that hurt to look at directly. Jake Morrison paced near the windows, watching the dragons outside as they set up temporary shelters. The younger dragons moved with quick, nervous energy while the elders remained still and watchful. It reminded him of refugee camps he had seen during the border wars. But these refugees could level buildings with their bare claws. The Devourers are not alive in the way we understand life, Mordith explained through his translator device. They are machines, but machines with intelligence far beyond what your people have achieved. They were created long ago by a species that called themselves the Architects. Dr. Price leaned forward. "What happened to the Architects?" "They were the first to be consumed," Mordith said sadly. The Devourers were meant to be tools of exploration, sent to catalog and study distant galaxies. But something went wrong. They began to see all biological life as inefficient, wasteful. They decided the universe would be better without us. Lisa Carter entered the room with a grim expression. I just got off the come with Earth Command. They want to speak with you, Jake. Jake stopped pacing. What did you tell them? The truth. That we're harboring 47 alien refugees and that a machine intelligence might be coming to destroy us all. Lisa sat down heavily. They're sending Admiral Hayes to take command of the situation? Admiral Hayes? Jake frowned. That's Commander Hayes' father. He's a by-the-book officer. He won't understand what we're dealing with here. Dr. Price looked up from her displays. Mordeth, how long do we have before the Devourers arrive? The old dragon's eyes closed as he consulted some internal chronometer. Perhaps 6 of your days. Maybe less. They move faster when they detect large concentrations of biological matter. Like a colony of 50,000 people plus 47 dragons, Jake muttered. Exactly, Mordeth confirmed. Your world now appears very attractive to them. A commotion outside caught Jake's attention. Through the window, he could see a young dragon arguing with 2 of his marines. The dragon was smaller than the others, but its scales were deep red and it moved with aggressive confidence. Who's that? Jake asked. Mordeth followed his gaze. Velkanos. He is young and angry. He lost his mate and children when our world fell. He blames all other species for not helping us sooner. Is he dangerous? He is a warrior, Mordeth said carefully. But he follows the matriarch's orders. Still, I would not provoke him. Jake headed for the door. I'll go talk to him. Jake, wait, Lisa called after him. Maybe that's not a good idea. But Jake was already outside, walking toward the confrontation. The 2 Marines, Corporal Lewis and Private Brooks, had their rifles ready but not raised. The red dragon stood over them, his neck extended downward as he spoke in harsh, rapid tones. Stand down, Marines, Jake ordered as he approached. What's the problem here? Velkanos turned toward Jake, his golden eyes burning with rage. Your warriors question my right to move freely. They treat us like prisoners when we came seeking aid. My Marines are just doing their job, Jake replied calmly. They're responsible for the safety of this colony. Safety? Velkanos laughed bitterly. You speak of safety when the Devourers approach? Your tiny weapons cannot stop them. Your fragile buildings will not protect you. You are all going to die, and you worry about safety? Jake stepped closer, looking directly into the dragon's eyes. Maybe we are all going to die, but we're going to try to live. And right now, that means we all follow some basic rules so we don't kill each other before the real enemy gets here. Velkanos studied Jake. For a long moment, you are not afraid of me. I'm terrified of you, Jake admitted. But fear doesn't change what needs to be done. The dragon's expression shifted slightly. You are honest. Most species lie to appear brave. Most species probably have more sense than to grant sanctuary to creatures that could step on them. Jake replied, but here we are. Velkanos actually smiled, showing teeth the size of daggers. Here we are indeed, human Jake Morrison. Perhaps there is hope for your kind after all. The dragon walked away, leaving Jake with his Marines. Corporal Lewis shook his head. Sarge, that thing could have eaten us whole. Yeah, but he didn't, Jake said. Remember that. Back in the conference room, Dr. Price was examining new holographic displays that showed the internal structure of what appeared to be a massive mechanical entity. This is incredible, she said as Jake rejoined the group. Mordeth, these Devourers are not just machines. They're entire artificial ecosystems. They break down matter at the molecular level and rebuild it into more of themselves. That is correct, Mordeth confirmed. They consume a world's biosphere and use it to create more Devourers. They grow stronger with each world they take. How many worlds have they consumed? Lisa asked. In our galaxy alone? Thousands. Perhaps tens of thousands. They have been active for millions of years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How did your people survive as long as you did? We were powerful once, Mordeth said, his voice heavy with memory. The Draconian Empire spanned 3,000 star systems. We had weapons that could crack planets, shields that could stop entire fleets. But the Devourers adapted to everything we threw at them. Adapted how? Dr. Price asked. They learned from each encounter. Each time we destroyed one, the others became immune to that method. Our quantum disruptors worked once. Our temporal bombs worked once. Our reality scramblers worked once. But never twice. So what makes you think we can stop them? Jake asked. Mordeth looked at him with something that might have been hope. Because you are new. Your minds work differently than ours. Your species approaches problems in ways we never considered. Like what? Like granting sanctuary to beings. That could destroy your world, Mordeth said simply. No other species has ever done that. They either attack us or flee. You chose a third option. Communications Officer Ryan Brooks burst into the room. Admiral Hayes is on the comm. He wants to speak with Staff Sergeant Morrison immediately. Jake sighed. Put him through. The main display screen flickered to life, showing a stern-faced man in his 60s wearing the uniform of an Earth Command admiral. Jake recognized the family resemblance to Commander Hayes immediately. Staff Sergeant Morrison, Admiral Hayes said without preamble. I'm ordering you to expel those alien creatures from New Haven immediately. You have exceeded your authority and put civilian lives at risk. Sir, with respect, these beings are refugees fleeing a threat that could destroy us all. They're offering to help defend the colony. I don't care what they're offering, Admiral Hayes snapped. Earth Command has a strict policy regarding first contact with alien species. You will remove them from the colony or face court-martial. Jake looked around the room at Lisa, Dr. Price, and Mordeth. The old dragon watched the exchange with interest, but said nothing. Sir, I need more time to evaluate the situation, Jake said. You have 6 hours, Sergeant. If those creatures are not gone by then, I will have you arrested for treason. The transmission ended, leaving silence in the room. Well, Lisa said finally, that could have gone better. Jake turned to Mordeth. How long would it take you to teach us to use your weapons? Your technology is very primitive, Mordeth said, but your minds are flexible. Perhaps we could modify some of our equipment for human use. But why would you risk defying your own leaders? Jake walked to the window and looked out at the dragons and the human colonists who were beginning to interact cautiously. Children peeked out from behind their parents to stare at the massive creatures. Some of the braver adults were approaching, the dragons with offerings of food and water. Because sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules, Jake said. And I think helping people who need help is always the right thing. Mordeth nodded slowly. Then we will teach you what? We can. But know this, human Jake Morrison. Once you make this choice, there is no going back. The Devourers will mark your species as they have marked ours. Then we better make sure we're ready for them, Jake replied. Outside, the twin sons of Nu. Haven began to set, casting long shadows across the desert. In 6 days, those shadows might be the only thing left of the colony. But Jake Morrison was determined to make sure that didn't happen. The real war was about to begin. Admiral Hayes' ship arrived at New Haven exactly 6 hours after his ultimatum. Jake Morrison stood on the landing pad watching the military transport descend through the morning sky. Behind him, the dragons had not moved from their positions. Around the colony, they waited, patient and silent, for whatever would happen next. Lisa Carter joined Jake on the landing pad, her face tense with worry. Are you sure about this, Jake? Once you tell Admiral Hayes no, there's no going back. I'm sure, Jake replied, though his stomach churned with nervousness. Those dragons came to us for help? I'm not going to abandon them now. The transport touched down with a hiss of hydraulics. Admiral Hayes emerged with a squad of armed Marines, his face grim and determined. He walked directly to Jake, ignoring the massive dragon shapes visible in the distance. Staff Sergeant Morrison, I gave you a direct order to remove these creatures from the colony. Why are they still here? Jake stood at attention, but his voice was steady. Sir, I respectfully refuse to carry out that order. These beings are refugees, who pose no threat to the colony. Admiral Hayes' face turned red. You refuse a direct order from a superior officer? Do you understand what you're saying? I understand perfectly, sir. I'm saying that sometimes following orders means letting innocent people die, and I won't do that. Innocent people? Admiral Hayes gestured toward the dragons. Those are not people, Morrison. They're alien creatures that could destroy this entire colony without breaking a sweat. Matriarch Zixtara approached the landing pad, her massive form moving with dignified grace. When she spoke, her translator device carried her words clearly across the open space. Admiral Hayes, I am Zixtara, leader of the Draconian refugees. We understand your concerns about our presence here. We did not wish to bring conflict between your people. Admiral Hayes stared up at the enormous dragon. I don't negotiate with aliens. Morrison, you have exactly 1 minute to reconsider your position. Then you'll be disappointed, sir, Jake said. I'm not changing my mind. Admiral Hayes nodded to his Marines. Place Staff Sergeant Morrison under arrest for insubordination and treason. Before the Marines could move, Volcanos landed between them and Jake with a thunderous crash. The young dragon warrior stood protectively over the human, his red scales gleaming in the sunlight. You will not harm Jake Morrison, Volcanos growled. He has shown us honor when your kind would show us death? Admiral Hayes' Marines raised their weapons, but Jake quickly stepped forward. Stand down, everyone. This doesn't have to turn into a fight. You're right, Admiral Hayes said. It doesn't. Morrison, call off your pet dragon and come with us peacefully. Jake felt anger flare in his chest. He's not my pet, he's my ally. And I'm not going anywhere. Lisa Carter stepped forward. Admiral Hayes, I'm invoking Colonial Emergency Protocol 7. As Administrator of New Haven, I'm declaring independence from Earth Command pending resolution of this crisis. Admiral Hayes stared at her in shock. You can't do that. Colonial Emergency Protocol 7 only applies to situations where Earth Command's orders would result in the destruction of the colony. Which is exactly what this is, Lisa replied. The dragons are offering to help us defend against the Devourers. Sending them away would leave us defenseless. The dragons are the reason the Devourers are coming here in the first place. Admiral Hayes snapped. Zixtara spoke up. Admiral Hayes, the Devourers would have found your world eventually. They consume all biological matter they encounter. We have merely accelerated a meeting that was always inevitable. Dr. Helen Price approached the group, carrying a tablet filled with data. Admiral, I've been studying the dragon's information about the Devourers. They're not just a threat to New Haven, they're a threat to every living world in the galaxy, including Earth. That's Earth Command's problem to solve, Admiral Hayes said, not yours. With respect, sir, Dr. Price continued, Earth Command doesn't have weapons that can stop the Devourers. The dragons do. Or at least they have knowledge that could help us develop such weapons. Admiral Hayes looked around at the faces surrounding him. His own Marines seemed uncertain, clearly affected by the conversation. Morrison, even if what you're saying is true, you're still guilty of insubordination. I have to arrest you. Jake nodded. I understand, sir, but I'm not going with you. Then I'll have to take you by force. You can try, Volcano said, his voice a low rumble. But you will find that difficult. Admiral Hayes looked up at the dragon, then at his small squad of Marines, then at the dozens of other dragons visible around the colony. This is mutiny. No, sir, Jake said. This is the right thing to do. Communications Officer Ryan Brooks came running across the landing pad. Admiral Hayes, you need to see this. We're getting reports from other colonies. Admiral Hayes took the communication device. His face grew pale as he listened. What do you mean? 3 colonies have gone dark. The Kepler colony, New Moscow, and Port Royal, Ryan explained. They stopped transmitting 2 days ago? Long-range sensors show massive energy signatures at all 3 locations. Mordith approached the group slowly. The Devourers move faster than we anticipated. They must have split their forces to consume multiple worlds simultaneously. How many people lived on those colonies? Jake asked. About 100,000 combined. Ryan replied quietly. The landing pad fell silent except for the wind blowing across the desert. Admiral Hayes stared at the communication device in his hands. 100,000 people, he whispered. Gone, and Earth is next, Zixthara said gently. Unless we work together to stop them, Admiral Hayes looked up at Jake. What are you proposing? Partnership, Jake said. The dragons teach us their technology, we teach them our tactics. Together we might have a chance. And if we fail? Then at least we die fighting for something we believe in, Jake replied. Admiral Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Finally he spoke. Morrison, you're still under arrest. But I'm suspending your sentence pending the outcome of this crisis. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. If this goes wrong, I'll be the one to pull the trigger at your execution. Admiral Hayes turned to Zixthara. Matriarch, what do you need from us? Time, she replied. Time to modify our technology for human use. Time to teach your warriors our knowledge. Time to prepare for the battle of our lives. How much time do we have? The Devourers will arrive in 4 days, Mordith said. Maybe less. Admiral Hayes nodded grimly. Then we better get started. Morrison, you're in charge of coordinating the defense. I'll contact Earth Command and try to get more ships. What will you tell them? Lisa asked. The truth. That we're facing a threat that could destroy all human life, and our only hope is to trust in aliens who came to us for help. Jake looked around at the assembled humans and dragons. This is really happening, isn't it? We're actually going to fight alongside dragons. It appears so, Zixthara said. Your species continues to surprise us with your choices. Good surprises. Or bad surprises, Jake asked. That remains to be seen, Velcano said. But there was something like approval in his voice. Over the next several hours, the colony of New Haven transformed into a military base. Dragons and humans worked side by side, sharing knowledge and preparing for war. Dr. Price and her team learned to operate dragon quantum manipulators. Human engineers helped dragons repair their damaged equipment. Marines practiced with dragon-enhanced weapons that could tear through solid steel. Medical officer Amy Foster made a remarkable discovery while treating an injured dragon. Jake, you need to see this, she called from the medical tent. Jake found her examining readings from a medical scanner. What is it? The dragon's blood contains compounds that could enhance human reflexes and strength. If we could synthesize it safely, our Marines could move and fight at nearly dragon-level speeds. Is it safe? I think so. But we'd need volunteers for testing. Jake held out his arm. Where do I sign up? Jake, this is dangerous. We don't know what the long-term effects might be. Amy, in 4 days we're going to be fighting machines that have destroyed entire civilizations. I think a little risk is acceptable. The injection burned as it entered his bloodstream, but within minutes Jake felt the effects. His vision became sharper, his reflexes faster. When Velcanos threw a practice sword at him, Jake caught it without thinking. Impressive, the dragon warrior said. You move almost like one of us now, almost? You are still small and weak, Velcanos said with what might have been humor. But you are fast enough to be useful. As the sun set on New Haven, Jake stood with Zixthara and Admiral Hayes, watching the preparations continue. Dragons soared overhead, carrying equipment. Human technicians worked on hybrid weapon systems. The colony buzzed with activity. You think we have a chance? Admiral Hayes asked. I think we have something the Devourers have never encountered before, Jake replied. Dragons and humans working together. That has to count for something. Indeed, Zixthara agreed. The Devourers have faced many species, but never an alliance like this. Perhaps your human unpredictability combined with our ancient knowledge will be enough. It has to be, Jake said, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Because if we fail here, there might not be anyone left to try again. The alliance was formed. Now came the real test. The alarm klaxons woke Jake Morrison from restless sleep. He rolled out of his bunk and grabbed his enhanced combat gear, the dragon blood modifications making his movements faster and more precise than ever before. Outside his quarters, the colony of New Haven buzzed with frantic activity as humans and dragons prepared for the battle they all knew was coming. They're here, Communications Officer Ryan Brooks reported as Jake entered the command center. Long-range sensors picked them up 20 minutes ago. 15 massive ships, each one the size of a small moon. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Devourer fleet. The enemy ships looked like mechanical spiders, all angles and sharp edges, moving through space with deadly purpose. "How long until they reach us?" Admiral Hayes asked. 6 hours, Dr. Helen Price replied, checking her instruments. "But they're already sending smaller scout ships ahead. Those will arrive in 90 minutes. Matriarch Zixthara entered the command center, her massive form barely fitting through the reinforced doorway. "The time has come to test our alliance. Are your people ready, Jake Morrison?" Jake nodded, though his stomach churned with nervous energy. "As ready as we can be in 4 days. What about your warriors?" "Velkanos leads our aerial forces. They are eager for revenge against the machines that destroyed our world." Lisa Carter approached with a tablet full of reports. "Jake, we've managed to evacuate most of the civilians to the underground shelters. The mining tunnels should protect them from orbital bombardment." "Good. What about our defenses?" "The Dragon-human hybrid weapon systems are online," Dr. Price reported. "We've got quantum disruptors at 12 locations around the colony, and our Marines are equipped with Dragon-enhanced armor and weapons." Admiral Hayes studied the tactical display with concern. 15 ships against our small fleet and ground defenses. "The odds are not good. The Devourers expect us to fight like every other species they have encountered," Mordeth said from his position near the communications equipment. "Logical, predictable, defensive. We must do the unexpected. What do you suggest?" Jake asked. "Attack," Velkanos said as he entered the command center. The Red Dragon warrior's eyes burned with anticipation. "Hit them before they can deploy their full forces." "That's suicide," Admiral Hayes protested. "We should use the colony's defenses to make them come to us." "Traditional defensive thinking," Jake mused. "But what if Velkanos is right? What if the last thing they expect is for us to charge straight at them?" Zixthara considered this. "The Devourers adapt to each tactic they encounter, but they need time to analyze and counter new strategies. If we move fast enough, we might confuse them long enough to inflict real damage." Jake made the decision that would define the battle. "We split our forces. Half stay to defend the colony. The other half goes out to meet them head-on. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and keep them guessing." Admiral Hayes looked skeptical. "Morrison, you're talking about taking dragons and human ships into a space battle against machines that have destroyed entire civilizations." "Yes, sir, I am." "Then God help us all." An hour later, Jake found himself in the cockpit of a modified human fighter, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to keep up with the Dragon hybrid controls. Around him, a mixed fleet of human ships and flying dragons moved toward the edge of New Haven's star system. Velkanos flew alongside Jake's fighter, his massive wings somehow propelling him through the vacuum of space using dragon technology that Dr. Price still did not fully understand. "First time flying with dragons?" Velkanos asked through the comm system. "First time flying into certain death with dragons," Jake replied. "Does it get easier?" "No," Velkanos said. "But it gets more interesting." The Devourer scout ships appeared. On their sensors, sleek mechanical forms that moved with unnatural precision. There were 30 of them, each one bristling with weapons that could vaporize a city block. "Remember the plan," Jake broadcast to the fleet. "Hit them fast, stay unpredictable, and don't give them time to adapt. Dragons take point, humans provide support." The battle began with a coordination that should have been impossible. Dragons dove at the Devourer ships like ancient mythical beasts attacking flying castles, while human fighters darted between them, firing quantum-enhanced weapons at maximum power. The first Devourer ship exploded in a burst of silver fire as Velkanos tore through its hull with claws that had been enhanced with human-made cutting tools. 2 more ships fell to coordinated attacks from human fighters and dragon fire breath that had been modified to burn in space. "It's working," Admiral Hayes reported from his command ship. "The Devourers are hesitating. They're not adapting fast enough. But even as he spoke, the enemy ships began to change. Their movements became more erratic, copying the unpredictable patterns the dragons were using. Their weapons started firing in random bursts instead of calculated volleys. "They're learning," Mordeth warned over the com. "We have perhaps 10 minutes before they fully adapt to our tactics." "Then we change tactics again," Jake said. He pulled his fighter into a dive that would have killed him without the dragon blood modifications, heading straight for the largest scout ship. "All fighters, follow my lead. We're going to do something really stupid." Jake flew his ship directly into the docking bay of the Devourer vessel, followed by 6 other human pilots and Velcanos. The inside of the enemy ship was a maze of mechanical corridors and processing chambers that reeked of death and metal. "Internal assault," Jake announced as he and his team fought their way through mechanical defenders. Something they definitely won't expect. The Devourer ship's internal defenses were designed to stop boarding parties that fought with conventional weapons and tactics. They were not prepared for enhanced humans wielding dragon tech weapons and a very angry dragon warrior who could breathe fire hot enough to melt steel. Jake planted explosive charges at key points throughout the ship while his team and Velcanos held off the mechanical defenders. The charges were a hybrid of human explosives and dragon quantum disruptors, designed to cause chain reactions in the ship's power systems. "Charges set," Jake reported. "Everyone out." They barely made it back to their ships before the Devourer vessel tore itself apart from the inside out. The explosion was so massive it damaged 2 other enemy ships and sent debris flying in all directions. "Impossible," came a mechanical voice over the com frequencies. It was the first time anyone had heard a Devourer speak. "This tactic is illogical. Survival probability approaches 0. "Welcome to fighting humans," Jake replied. "We specialize in impossible." The space battle raged for 3 more hours. The Human-Dragon Alliance lost 7 ships and 2 dragon warriors, but they destroyed all 30 scout ships and forced the main Devourer fleet to slow its advance. Back on New Haven, the real test came when the Devourer main fleet finally arrived. 15 enormous ships began bombarding the planet's surface with weapons that could crack continents, but the Alliance was ready. The quantum disruptors created by human engineering and dragon science formed a protective barrier around the colony. When Devourer troops landed on the surface, they found themselves facing enhanced human marines, fighting alongside dragon warriors in perfect coordination. The battle for New Haven lasted 18 hours. Jake lost count of how many mechanical enemies he destroyed. His enhanced body moved faster than should have been possible, while dragon fire and human weapons combined to create destruction on a scale he had never imagined. The turning point came when Velcanos made a choice that changed everything. A massive Devourer war machine was advancing on the underground shelters where the civilians hid. The machine's shields were too strong for conventional weapons, and it would reach the shelters in minutes. "Jake Morrison," Velcanos called over the com. "It has been an honor to fight beside you." Before Jake could respond, the Red Dragon Warrior launched himself directly at the war machine. His body, enhanced with every piece of human and dragon technology they could fit into it, struck the machine with the force of a falling meteor. The explosion could be seen from orbit. When the smoke cleared, both Velcanos and the war machine were gone. "Velcanos?" Jake screamed. But there was no response. The loss of their comrades sent the remaining dragon warriors into a fury that the Devourers had never encountered. Ancient creatures that had once ruled star empires unleashed their full power for the first time in centuries, while human marines fought with desperate courage to honor their fallen ally. By dawn, the last Devourer ship was retreating from New Haven's orbit. The machines had lost more than half their forces, and for the first time in their existence, they had been forced to withdraw from a world they intended to consume. Jake stood in the ruins of the colony's main plaza, his enhanced body finally feeling the exhaustion of 18 hours of combat. Around him, humans and dragons worked together to tend the wounded and assess the damage. Zixthara approached him, her ancient eyes filled with grief for Velcanos, but also with something Jake had rarely seen in the time he had known her: hope. "The Devourers will be back," she said. "But they will be different when they return. They will have adapted to our tactics. Then we'll have to adapt too, Jake replied. We'll have to become something they can't predict or understand. What do you have in mind? 6 months after the Battle of New Haven, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Alliance warship Freedom, watching as the combined human-dragon fleet approached the galactic core. The ship around him hummed with hybrid technology that would have been impossible before the Alliance formed. Dragon quantum drives powered human-designed hulls, while crews of both species worked side by side at stations that had been built for maximum cooperation. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from the navigation station. Her medical expertise had made her invaluable in understanding how the Alliance's hybrid technologies affected living beings. The Devourer control nexus is directly ahead. Jake studied the massive structure on the main display. It looked like a mechanical galaxy in miniature, with thousands of processing stations, factory ships, and defense platforms arranged in spiraling arms around a central core that pulsed with malevolent energy. "Mordeth, are you certain this is their main base?" Jake asked. The elderly dragon, now serving as the fleet's strategic advisor, consulted his instruments. "The quantum signatures match our projections. This is where the Devourers coordinate their galactic consumption. Destroy this, and their entire network will collapse." Admiral Hayes, who had become a strong supporter of the Alliance after seeing what humans and dragons could accomplish together, shook his head in amazement. "In 6 months, we've gone from defending one colony to attacking the enemy's main stronghold." "How did we get here so fast?" "Because we kept moving," Jake replied. "Every time the Devourers adapted to one of our tactics, we tried something completely different." It was true. After the victory at New Haven, the Alliance had grown rapidly. Other human colonies had joined after seeing that cooperation with the dragons offered real protection. More dragon survivor groups had emerged from hiding, bringing ancient knowledge and powerful weapons. Together, they had liberated dozens of worlds that the Devourers were in the process of consuming. "Sir," Communications Officer Ryan Brooks called out, "we're receiving transmission from Earth. President Williams wants to speak with you." The main screen shifted to show a middle-aged woman in the formal attire of Earth's government. President Williams had been skeptical of the Alliance at first, but the liberation of 3 Earth colonies had changed her mind quickly. "General Morrison," she said, using Jake's new rank in the Alliance military structure, "the entire human race is watching this mission. Are you confident in your plan?" "As confident as anyone can be when attacking something that has destroyed thousands of civilizations," Jake replied honestly. "But we have advantages that no other species has had." "Such as?" Jake gestured around the bridge where humans and dragons work together with perfect coordination. "We think differently than any species the Devourers have faced. Dragons provide power and ancient wisdom. Humans provide unpredictability and tactical flexibility. Together, we create strategies that the Devourers cannot predict or counter." "And if you fail?" "Then at least we died trying to save every living thing in the galaxy," Jake said. "But I don't think we're going to fail." The transmission ended, and Jake turned his attention back to the approaching battle. The Devourer Nexus was already responding to their presence, launching thousands of defense ships that moved with mechanical precision. "All ships, this is General Morrison," Jake broadcast to the entire fleet. "Remember what we learned at New Haven and every battle since. Stay unpredictable, support each other, and show these machines what happens when you threaten our friends." The battle began with a move that should have been impossible. Instead of attacking the outer defenses as expected, half the Dragon fleet used their quantum manipulation abilities to phase directly through the enemy shields and appear inside the Nexus structure itself. The Devourers had never encountered an enemy that could ignore their defensive barriers. Their response patterns, refined over millions of years of conquest, had no protocols for dealing with attackers who appeared inside their most protected spaces. "Internal breach successful," reported Zixthara from her position leading the Dragon. "Assault force, we are engaging targets throughout the structure." Meanwhile, The human ships used their smaller size and enhanced maneuverability to dart between the massive Devourer vessels, targeting weak points that the dragons had identified through their ancient knowledge of machine construction. Jake found himself in a fighter modified with dragon technology, diving through the mechanical maze of the Nexus with reflexes enhanced by dragon blood modifications. Around him, the battle raged on a scale that dwarfed even the fight for New Haven. "Jake Morrison?" came a familiar voice over the comm. Jake's heart jumped as he recognized the speaker. "Velcanos? But you died at New Haven." "I was severely damaged, but dragon regeneration technology saved me. I have been recovering while planning for this moment." The Red Dragon warrior appeared alongside Jake's fighter, his scales now bearing scars from his near-death experience, but his eyes burning with the same fierce determination. "It is good to fight beside you again, my friend," Velcanos said. "Likewise," Jake replied, feeling a surge of hope. "Now let's finish what we started." Together, they penetrated deeper into the Nexus than any other Alliance forces had managed. The central core of the Devourer network lay ahead, a massive computational matrix that processed information from across the galaxy. "This is it," Jake said, studying the structure. "The brain of their entire operation." "The Devourer's fatal flaw," Velcanos observed, "is that they are too logical. They cannot comprehend the concept of sacrifice for others. This makes them predictable in ways they do not understand." Jake armed the quantum charges that Dr. Helen Price had designed specifically for this mission. They combined human explosive technology with dragon quantum manipulation, creating weapons that could disrupt the fundamental structure of reality itself. "Charges armed," Jake reported, "but I'll need to get inside the core to plant them properly." "That is certain death," Velcanos said. "The radiation levels alone will kill any living being." "Maybe," Jake said, "but someone has to do it." "Not someone," Velcanos corrected. "Both of us. Together we might survive long enough to complete the mission." They flew their ships directly into the heart of the Devourer core, a space filled with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. The radiation immediately began affecting Jake's enhanced physiology, but the dragon blood modifications helped him resist the worst effects. Velcanos used his natural dragon resistance to energy to shield both of them as they planted the charges at critical points throughout the core structure. The work was slow and dangerous, with Devourer defense systems attacking them constantly. "Charges placed," Jake finally reported, his voice weak from radiation exposure. "All ships, clear the area. We have 30 seconds. "Jake, Velcanos, get out of there," Admiral Hayes ordered. "Negative," Jake replied. "Someone needs to make sure the charges detonate properly. If this fails, there won't be another chance." As the countdown reached 0, Jake and Velcanos positioned themselves at the core's center, using their combined willpower to guide the quantum explosions through the most critical systems. The explosion that followed could be seen from across the galaxy. The Devourer Nexus tore itself apart as its central control matrix collapsed, sending shutdown signals to every Devourer facility and ship throughout known space. When the energy finally faded, Jake found himself floating in space. His fighter destroyed, but his enhanced body somehow still alive. Velcanos drifted nearby, unconscious but breathing. "Jake!" "Velcanos." Amy Foster's voice came through his emergency communicator. "We're coming to get you." Hours later, Jake stood in the medical bay of the Freedom, watching as doctors treated Velcanos' injuries. The Dragon Warrior would recover fully, though it would take time. "Is it over?" Amy asked. Jake looked at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Devourer ships were shutting down everywhere. Worlds that had been under attack were suddenly free. The mechanical threat that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years was finally ended. "Yes," Jake said. "It's over." Zixtara entered the medical bay, her ancient eyes bright with something Jake had never seen in them before: true peace. "The galaxy is free," she announced. "The Devourers are no more. And it is thanks to an alliance between species that no one thought possible." "What happens now?" Jake asked. Now we build something new, Lisa Carter said, joining them with a tablet full of reports. 17 different species have requested to join the alliance. They want protection, but they also want to be part of something bigger than themselves. Admiral Hayes appeared in the doorway. The President has offered to make you Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Alliance. Interested? Jake looked around at his friends, human and dragon alike. They had started as refugees seeking shelter and soldiers following orders. Now they were something entirely new, a union of species working together for the good of all life. In the galaxy, I'll take the job, Jake said. But only if Velcanos agrees to be my co-ambassador. The red dragon warrior opened one golden eye and managed a weak smile. It would be my honor, Jake Morrison. Though I suggest we start with something easy, like establishing trade routes, or stopping the next galactic threat that comes along, Jake said with a grin.